All right, guys. Y'all know me as TickleSlip, and well, most of you anyway, at least my YouTube followers. And I've been trying to get my life resorted around so that I can do this right here, what you see across the top. This will be a podcast. Well, it'll be a podcast, and then I will probably put the video highlights on TikTok and YouTube, like shorts and stuff. I'll have longs on YouTube for it. I'm pretty sure I made a channel for this very specifically, so if you want to find this video later, you can go through my main profile. I'll have a video up there, but you can also just go to the Unscripted Room and you can follow that. So I'm going to start this off with, today I woke up kind of late, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is very unusual for me. I wasn't feeling good in my sleep. Apparently at some point I was completely uncovered, and because we have a window AC in our bedroom, because it's easier for it to keep up with keeping our bedroom cool at night so we can sleep really good. Well, apparently I woke up and I was freezing half to death, literally going like this. My skin was cold and everything. So, one, I either died for a few minutes and I don't know what the fuck happened, and I woke up, life came back to me, or two, I was so fucking cold that my body temperature was abysmal, and it took several hours for me to warm back up, and so then, therefore, that's why I got up late. But anyway, I get up, and, of course, we have a new puppy, and puppy just got back from the vet, news we expected. Puppy had a UTI because of the squalid conditions that we received the puppy from. The owner, or, well, the breeder, hobby breeder. They're not a real breeder, they're a hobby breeder, and whatever. I'm not going to get into that. I wake up late. I get onto TikTok after my wife brings the puppy home, and she's, she takes care, or helps to take care of the day-to-day of a United States veteran that served our country during late Desert Storm era, so late 90s. And so she has to go do that. I'm on puppy duty. I pull out my phone. First thing I do is to go on TikTok, and I go to see what's going on with my profile, of course, because now I'm starting to actually gain followers again on TikTok, etc., so on. And one of the first videos I come across is CharlieKirk has been shot. Now, what most people don't know about me is I was a registered Republican voter from the time that I could vote 18 until about 6 years ago or so, and then I flipped over to being a registered Democrat. While that being said, my belief on the two-party system is it shouldn't exist. Like, it needs to go away. It needs to be done. But that being said, everybody's going, oh yeah, it was probably some left-winger. Some left-winger fucking did it. Well, I'm sorry to have to tell everybody, but there are bad in both political parties. Even though we have more than two political parties, when everybody says political parties, they're only talking about Republican and Democrat. So there's good and bad in both political parties when it comes to this. There's good and bad in people that aren't registered voters. People have free will, or so we're told, because of a mystical being from the sky called God. And whether or not you believe in God, whether or not you believe in a mystical being, whether or not you believe we were created from aliens, whether or not you are an atheist, which is now a religion, they believe in a higher power now. They just don't believe in the higher power that's described in the Bible. But my point is there's bad in both parties. There's good in both parties. There's bad in the real world. There's good in the real world. CharlieKirk was a millennial. He was an older millennial, but he was a millennial nonetheless. He, ended up being Republican, I think, because if I remember how the story went, his family, some of his family at least, were Democrats, registered, etc., and so forth, and he didn't like the way the Democratic like party, their not motto, but like, you know, each side has like their beliefs and their tenets. So he didn't believe in the Democratic, you know, like tenets and stuff, and he felt that he fit more with the Republican tenets, which even myself involved, I still feel like I fit more with how the Republican Party is, and I feel like I'm more in the middle. But you know, you can't be an independent in this world and never think about running a race or anything like that. You have to either become a Democrat or you need to be a Republican. And then if you switch parties, then you're asked why you switched those parties. Who gives a fuck? You switched parties because you didn't like what was going on and you were tired of seeing the same destructive behavior for decades out of a party. So you switched the party because the other party isn't being as destructive. Who gives a shit? There's good people and there's bad people. And that's how this needs to be, you know, looked at. This is good people and bad people. And in this situation with this man being shot on a Utah University campus, and it was one shot only, I hate to tell everybody, but that's a professional or a semi-professional, because, and the only reason why I say this is because there was only one shot and they misjudged the velocity and angle based on wind. They hit him in the neck instead of in the head. It was meant to be a headshot, guarantee it. And they missed and they hit him in the neck. So somebody hired a professional sniper or a semi-professional sniper to kill this man. One shot only, not multiple shots. Not even like the attempted Trump assassination, the first one. There was multiple shots. That kid missed like, you know, 4 or 5 shots and they finally like nicked him. This isn't a kid. I guarantee you this is going to be someone that is probably a millennial, say, you know, in that same age group, or it's probably going to be a Gen Z that went to one of his events, didn't like what he said, and this was the end result. He finally got his schedule. He figured out what was going on, whatever. He knew where he was going to be. He was going to be nearby. Now, this is going to be somebody that probably traveled too. Everybody's going to assume it's somebody local, but this is going to be somebody who traveled to this event, probably at least 2 or 3 states away. So that puts the entire Plains region in range, and that also puts, you know, Oregon, Washington, and California in range too. Chances are they're probably going to find out it was somebody from California. I mean, California is a primarily Democratic state, and unfortunately, you know, it is what it is. But this is probably not going to be somebody local. And the fact that it was only one shot, they're probably military trained, or it's a private individual who was trained by another assassin or something like that. Don't ask me how I know this stuff, because I'm not going to say. I'm not a trained assassin. That's all I will say. But just know that I know about this shit. And plus, I have multiple psych degrees, so I can profile people as well. But anyhow, it's just that, like, you know, this was not necessary. This was not necessary. Just because this man was a thought provoker, that's what he was. He was a millennial, but he was a thought provoker. And there, per generation, we don't get too many thought provokers. You know, we had MLK. Look what happened to him. You know, we don't get a lot of thought provokers in our lives. You know, thought provokers are the people that ask the hard questions, or maybe they ask the easy questions, and all they want is, you know, an answer. Like, they don't want the answer. Like CharlieKirk, you know, he was good for calling out people that were reading off, you know, cookie cutter answers from like Wikipedia or quotes they saw online, you know, or information that you would only have from your experience of being on the internet. And then he would ask people, you know, whatever the question was. And, you know, sometimes we got really good answers, but it wasn't always the correct answer. This man was smart. He researched the subjects that he was going to be talking about. You know, he didn't know, he wasn't a know-all. He just was somebody who had a good memory, and he could go in and he could read about all the topic that he was going to go into if he didn't already know what it was personally, from personal experience. And he would go and he would do this stuff. And then he would ask these college kids, because, you're going to college to learn, right? Well, not necessarily, because a lot of colleges like to slip in a lot of stuff that you just don't need. They have, a lot of colleges have political agendas, and they slip in political stuff that you don't need. You're there to learn. You're not there to be, activists. And I mean, typically activism does tend to start in college. It just happens there. Sometimes before that, but you don't see it too often before that. Usually, like, activists start up after college because of the experience that they had in college, and how college shaped them personally. But this was bullshit. It's fucking senseless, and we need to, like, this shit needs to stop. Okay, like, I agree with a lot of the people on TikTok and stuff from both sides, both Republicans and Democrats. And, some of the people are heavy right-wingers or heavy left-wingers that are saying this stuff, and they all have come to an agreement without saying it to each other's face, which is half the problem. Everybody's coming to agreement that we all need to start speaking out more. And we all need to, whatever, but we all run into the risk of peril when we speak out about this shit in public, or, whatever's going on. We're all in peril of that because of some, asshole with a gun that goes, no, I don't need to believe your way. You're fucking wrong. And now I'm going to shoot you because you're wrong. I'm not going to give you a chance to explain or anything like that. I'm just going to shoot you dead because I don't agree with you. I mean, I literally seen a shooting just like this that ended up all over, I think, TikTok eventually, but it was in my wife's local hometown. There was a guy with mental health issues. He's flipping off a war memorial constantly. It actually made national news yesterday in the morning. NBC News picked up the story from my wife's hometown. But the guy was out there flipping off the war memorial. He didn't like the government because he, had mental health issues, and he couldn't get into the military when he was younger, when he was of age and met all the other requirements. He couldn't pass an ASVAB, okay? So this is the kind of mental health issues he had. But the whole point is he was exercising his rights to flip off the war memorial, and someone had came along and they didn't like that. And so they pushed this man out in the middle of the street. Well, then somebody else decided they didn't like it either, and they got out. And then somebody else came along and got out of their car. And the third dude that came along and got out of his fucking car, he had 2 other opportunities to walk away from this guy, and he didn't. Now, the guy with the mental health problems, he rode his bike all over the town. He had a stick. He also had a peg leg. So he had the stick, like a walking stick, to help him walk, but he also used the stick on the bike to keep, like, dogs and stuff away from, from running after him and stuff like that, keep him from biting him. Smart dude, even though he had mental health problems. But he was smart. He was like Rain Man smart, okay? If anybody has seen Rain Man, you know what I'm talking about. If you have not seen Rain Man, go watch the movie, and then you'll understand what I'm saying. He was autistic, but he was smart. So the third guy that got involved, he got clucked by the dude with the stick. But there's 3 of them, like, harassing this man and pushing him around and infringing on his right to do what he wanted in public. But these 3 men were like, no, we don't like what you're doing. So the third guy, after he gets clucked a couple times, and I mean, he's bleeding, instead of walking away, his wife knew exactly what he was getting ready to go do. His dude left, went to his car. He could have left at this point, just gone to the hospital, got his staples in his head. The dude ended up with like 14 staples, something like that, from getting clucked from the guy with mental health problems. No, instead of walking away, getting in his car, he goes to his car, gets his pistol, his 9mm, comes straight back, and when the dude with the stick is slightly distracted from the other 2 men and the wife trying to pull her husband away from him with the pistol, he got his opportunity, shot him dead. Boom. Right there. Dude dropped straight to hit his knees first, face first, flat into the pavement. I knew what happened. I knew exactly what had happened at that point. There was no sound on the videos because most of the people that were videoing were far away. But not one fucking person got out of their fucking car that was videotaping this shit. I say videotaping, but you know what I mean. Cell phone. Not one person doing this shit got out to help a mentally handicapped male from getting shot. Now, one person helped to get these 3 men off of him to keep him from getting shot from one of the 3 men. That man only got second-degree murder charges when it should have been first, because he had the opportunity to walk away, and he went to his car, got his gun, came back, shot the dude dead. Only weapon that mentally handicapped man had was that stick, and it was literally a walking stick. Yeah, he fucked that dude up, but that's because the dude was going around behind him and like grabbing him from behind and trying to grab that stick, and he was fucking, you know, he was pushing this guy around, and they were holding him, you know, and hitting him and shit. But no, this dude couldn't walk away, and he turned around and shot. It's those people in the world that type of a person is the type of person that shot Charlie Kirk. Period. They didn't like what he was saying. They finally got fed up with it. They were close enough to where they lived. They were willing to drive the distance. One shot, done. So it's either a pro or a semi-pro, or somebody who practices on the regular with human dummies or fucking mannequins, whatever, using them and practicing them to get the shots right and to line stuff up and measuring the distance between the head and the heart and all this other stuff. This is somebody who is well practiced. So they're either military or somebody well practiced, but they're definitely a semi-pro or a pro, and they've done this before. And this is going to be the killing that gets them caught for all the other stuff that they've been doing. Unfortunately for Charlie Kirk, he was actual friends with Trump, and he believed in a lot of what Trump is doing. And I think many of us agree to an extent of what Trump is doing, but the other stuff that Trump is doing is what's pissing everybody off. And, unfortunately, people do try to claim this all the time, but I know who Trump is. I'm originally from New York. I was born in New York. Part of my family's past history was going into the city quite a bit and meeting with the Trumps, his dad, mostly his dad, and meeting with them about things. That's all I can really say. But I've met Trump, and he, when I met him, I was probably like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, somewhere in there. I remember going down to the city with my grandfather, my step-grandfather, and I remember we went to Trump Towers, and my step-grandfather had a meeting with Trump's father. And I don't really even want to get into what that was about, but the fact that we knew the family, whatever. So I know what kind of man Trump is, fundamentally. And what a lot of people see on TV is not the man that he is. That's the man that he's pretending to be, which is unfortunate, because he should just be himself and stop all the fucking playing around and shit and get down to actual business and stop fucking with people. But anyway, it's unfortunate for Charlie Kirk that he was Trump's friend, because probably also whoever killed Charlie Kirk felt, oh, well, he's his right-hand man. He's the reason why Trump won. He's this, he's that, whatever. He's the one putting all these silly ideas in Trump's head. No, Trump's got his own silly ideas, trust me. But it's just like, you have a person who's trying to provoke thought in people and trying to get people to understand that not everything is black and white. It can be, and the actual answers are, but there's so much misleading information out there on the internet. I mean, there's tons and tons of misleading information out there on the internet, especially TikTok. Like, I cannot believe the amount of people that believe half the news that they see on TikTok, because most of it is fake. This obviously was not. You know, the first thing a person should do when they see something on TikTok that looks questionable or nah, this has got to be a hoax, go up to your fucking internet browser, whichever fucking search engine you choose, search the information yourself, find out for yourself if it is a hoax, if it is real, if it's been semi-mispurported. That's how you actually know. You don't go down the fucking rabbit hole on TikToks and keep going down and going, oh yeah, it must be true because there's like, 100 TikToks about this. So what? It could be completely fake, but you have no idea because the problem is apparently, looking for actual information was the last done with Gen Xers like myself. Because apparently people now just use the internet and they go, oh yeah, it must be true because it's on the internet. That's not how it is. That's not how it is. And people need to grow the fuck up and people need to learn better. You need to go fucking find the information for yourself. Don't take it at the horse's mouth because the horse might actually be a fucking donkey. And then that makes you a jackass for being the idiot that believed that shit. Well, I think I'm just going to end it here with, this is a turning point. This man didn't have a fucking I'm going to kill you bone in his body. He was very, sure, he made you think about stuff, but he was never involved in any altercation where he was the aggressor that I'm aware of as of this video. But it's like, all you younger generations out there, you need to stop getting butthurt at everything that's fucking said. You need to grow a fucking spine. You need to grow some fucking gator scales or dragon scales or whatever. You need to grow some fucking thick skin. And stop being a bunch of fucking sissy babies calling your parents up, living at home until you're 50. Like, y'all need to stop this shit. You need to stop. There's a reason why suicides are particularly high amongst Gen Z and the newer generation, Gen Alpha or whatever the hell they're calling it. There's a reason why those suicides are high. There's even a reason why the youngest of the millennials the suicide rates are high. There's a reason for that. Because y'all don't have a fucking spine or a thick skin. Your feelings get hurt, and then you just go, oh, they're not giving me the attention I need. Me, and then you kill yourselves. Like that's so, like, you don't understand how precious life is and how much of a difference you can make in someone else's life to the point of where that could be a generational difference. That could literally be you saving a generation that maybe 400 years from now finds the fucking cure to all diseases on the planet, and then we're able to go out into the stars and not have to worry about anything anymore. And we're probably, pretty immortal by then. Hi! Hey. Oh. She's a little dark. She doesn't show up real well. And that's also why I gotta wrap this up real quick. So, this is bullshit. I hope people are pissed off about this. And, like, my wife has been having a lot of problems with people speaking their mind lately and being really aggressive and stuff. So, the turning point has already happened. It's just now it's a powder keg, and I don't know how long we've got, but we're heading for a massive, like, civility war. That's what we're heading for right now. Not a civil war, a civility war. Anyway, y'all, I gotta go. I'm on puppy duty, and she's wanting to play, so it's playtime. Y'all have a good one. Please be more thought-provoked and think about what you're doing and be on the side that is right at the end, because what's going on now is all bad and it's about to get worse.